about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So imagine having dinner or holiday dinner with your kids, and they're not scrolling through the phone. They're going, yeah, Mom, yeah, yeah, whatever. And imagine your kids not being on their phones. I can imagine it because I grew up in the 80s. So you had to listen to what your parents had to say at the dinner table. Nowadays, everybody has their phones and they do whatever. Although my kids are really, really good, where they don't actually sit there and scroll through their phones over dinner. I mean, they might want to show me a meme, and that's their excuse. So like, Mom, let me show you a meme. And that gives them a chance to check their messages. Like, okay, yeah, show me the meme. And so these children being on social media has collectively been a cluster and a mess. Well, Australia is now one of the first countries to ban kids under the age of 16 to be on social media. Now, you can't just tell a 16-year-old, don't do it, because they're going to be like, well, up yours. So the onus is on the tech companies. This is the first country of its kind, and other countries are looking at Australia as a possible barometer of this and the trendsetter. But platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, starting midnight Australia time, nobody under 16 has access. 10 of the biggest platforms were ordered to block children from midnight on Wednesday or face fines of up to $33 million US dollars or 49.5 million Australian dollars. It's huge. Tech companies didn't like it. Free speech advocates didn't like it, but parents and children advocates love it. And this ban, if it becomes successful, other countries may want to follow suit. In a video message by Sky News Australia being reported by France 24, said that this message is played in schools this week, where the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the ban is aimed to support young Australians and ease the pressure that can come from endless feeds and algorithms. Make the most of the school holidays coming up rather than spending it scrolling on your phone. Start a new sport, learn a new instrument, or read that book that has been sitting there for some time on your shelf. And he said, more importantly, spend quality time with your friends, your family, face to face. So this is a first to see what would happen. Now, my guess is anybody with an older sister or brother or an older friend, they're going to be the most popular in the coming weeks. Where, well, I'm going to go to your house so I could use your computer, use your Facebook. Or people are going to be launching new accounts and lying about their age so they could get on Facebook, et cetera. And it's going to be on the tech giants to make sure they're not having young children on something that they're not supposed to. Just like porn sites, just like bars, they have to make sure somebody underage isn't accessing it. But how is that going to work? A country saying no more, you can't access social media anymore. That's tricky. Now, especially if social media is that child's community, if that is that child's, if it in the 80s, okay, you had a telephone, or you had a meetup, or a tailgate, or if as long as your parents didn't ban you from the phone and didn't screen all your calls, your friends had access to you. Well, that was 40 some years ago. Now this is how kids DM each other. Now, yes, you have texting. They'll still be able to text. But for a lot of people looking for community, if they don't necessarily have, somebody's phone number, it's all through, it's all through social media. So we're going to probably see a pivot and a shift of everybody that texting each other and group text and Discord and whatever. So I don't know if it's going to necessarily solve the problem of people being glued to their phones. But what it can solve is the predators having access to your child. The nonstop ads, the nonstop manipulation. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to the kids and how much, healthier they become and their mental health. I just don't know if it's going to be very practical. I think these kids are going to go through major, major withdrawal. I mean, this is going to be like a COVID lockdown to them. And it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty ugly at first. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But Australia, yeah, it's funny because Australia seems to be the most cool and laid back, and kangaroos and koala bears and Outback Steakhouse. I think Australia is one of the coolest countries out there. I can't wait to visit it. But boy, do they get strict. They had some of the strictest lockdown rules. They had some of the strictest lockdown measures. I mean, you were confined to your home for weeks. Couldn't get to the country, couldn't get out of the country. I heard parents couldn't see their kids for months because they couldn't get back to the country if they were elsewhere where they could have been exposed to COVID. Australia's pretty strict. They're pretty gutsy. But the problem we have is rather than kids and the bullies and maybe older kids or predators hanging around the school where teachers and principals and security can intervene, there's no intervention. There is no protection for these kids on what they're looking at 8 a.m., at 2 in the morning. And they're in danger. A lot of them are in danger. I mean, how many of these child abductions or these rapes or these assaults are related to somebody they met online? Frightening. Now, they will still be able to text. So, they will still be able to connect with people. They will be able to send videos. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this works. I am sure that it is going to be with a lot of drawn criticism. Now, what about freedom of speech? Does this affect, because in America, they're going to be, if this works in Australia, somebody's going to be bringing this up in America. Probably the teachers. The teachers are going to say, this is ridiculous. These kids aren't listening. They're not learning. We need to address their lack of proficiency. Let's get them off the phones. Now, so what will this affect? Is this a violation of freedom of speech? Well, you could still assemble. You could still talk. You could still text. We'll see what happens with this. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
back on the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dolly, Facebook, The Dr. Dolly Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So how do we make travel healthy again? How do we make family travel, or what is now the new term? I think it is make travel family friendly again. This is something that, again, we've been just taking for granted. We've been going to airports. We've been, panicking about, well, what are we going to eat? I don't want a greasy burger. I'm going to have to pack some healthy food. It's interesting. RFK Jr. said that airports are where healthy diets go to die. And he's not wrong with that. I've had anxiety about what I'm going to eat because of the airport options. And the airport options, there's like always a Burger King. Sometimes now, my airport where we're at in Las Vegas, the Harry Reid Airport, they have, lots of fun. They got restaurants and Cinnabon and things like that. But it's, I know I'm not going to eat healthy. And then I really worry because you're about to travel. You're going to be on a plane. Obviously, the plane food is going to be just peanuts or pretzels. And, so if I want to eat healthy, I always have to eat healthy before I leave for the airport. And so one thing that RFK Jr. wants to do, and he's working with the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, as RFK Jr. as Health and Human Services Secretary, is how to make airports more family-friendly and healthy. So another big concern that a lot of people don't have that I hear about as a doctor are your breastfeeding patients. They could breastfeed in the bathroom. There might be a nursing room here or there, but for the most part, if you need to pump, if you need to breastfeed your baby, you just do it in the middle of a busy terminal. And so one thing RFK Jr. wants to do, which I completely support, is make more nursing rooms. Another thing that is very, very important is you sit for hours. I can't tell you how many patients have had blood clots after an airport experience because they had to sit and wait for a couple hours, and then they were on a plane. And so what I always do when I fly is I find areas to walk. Now, the good news is there's lots of places to walk at the airport. So at least you could walk. But if it's busy and a bunch of people are coming off a plane and rushing into the bathroom, I never really get the full workout I want to. In Atlanta, the Atlanta airport, when I had an international flight to take with my son, there was like a really nice loop. And so, and I know people were watching me. I'm like, I'm just getting in my steps. And luckily I didn't get, too many bad looks, but I was able to walk because we had a 3-hour, layover. So I could walk, and then there were stairs. So I went stairs, down the stairs. So I got some exercise in. But one thing that RFK Jr. wants to do is offer areas where you could do some pull-ups, where you could exercise, gym access. I think that's brilliant. If you have a 3-hour layover and you could be going to the gym, why not there be a gym on site? Now, these airports aren't mandated to do it, but it's a campaign that the administration is kicking off, the Make Travel Family Friendly Again, as part of the Make Travel Healthy Again. And so Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, said the initiative is intended to make every part of the travel day more seamless, from navigating security with young children to finding places to exercise or breastfeed. It's $1 billion initiative designed to help airports build more play areas for the kids, exercise spaces for kids, add mother rooms or nursing pods, create family screening lanes, add security checkpoints, install sensory rooms for children with special needs. And airports, if they have their own ideas, have at it. If they could pitch their own ideas, I think it's brilliant. Now, I know everybody's been making fun of RFK Jr. and Sean Duffy for trying to do some pull-ups during the press conference. I don't mind that. I know media loves to make fun of this administration, but when you have suits saying we need to be more athletic, we need to be healthy, we need to, it really helps if they walk the walk, if they're talking the talk. And it's nice to see, people in government put, health first and show, look, these are things that we need to do. Now, a pull-up is not easy, especially with my boobies. I kind of need people to push me up. My upper body strength, not the wear. Got great legs. I could kickball. I could play soccer. Don't ask me to throw or do a pull-up. I can't do it. But I think it's fantastic that there's going to be these options. Now, there's not going to be, when you have millions and millions of travelers, it's not going to be easy. It's not like you're going to have that access. But why not? Why not try to have healthy food? Apparently, there's a grab-and-go farm fridge, I think it's called. Let me give credit where credit's due. It is farmer's fridge. Grab-and-go vendors that have healthier meals that you could grab. And so, because, how many of you are eating fresh vegetables? How many of you are eating carrot sticks? See, I would have to pack that. I would have to pack the fruit, pack the carrot sticks if I wanted something healthy. And I got to tell you, for those of you that are fearing the greasy Burger King burger on the plane, the reason why many of you fear it is because when you're up in the plane, your air shifts and you start to bloat. And sadly, a lot of people have gas issues. And I don't want that when I fly, so I hardly eat, or I won't eat anything greasy because I just don't want to, because I just can't potty on a plane. I could pee, And so, there's got to be options, because not only are people worried about their health and their cholesterol, but you have a lot of people with bowel issues and irritable bowel syndrome. And they're like, everything has onions and preservatives, and I don't want to eat like that. So I think it's absolutely brilliant to see two departments working together for this. And kids, flying with kids. We used to just not fly with the kids. They were a pain in the ass. And then once they got to an old enough age where we had books for them and toys, and we made it work. Would take them on walks in the airport. But when you have kids, they could really up the stress. And so I love the idea of them having their own security checkpoint. I think that's fantastic. Or the families, because, for those of us that want to go through, and you have mom go, now speak to the TSA agent and tell him what you're going to be doing while you're flying to grandma's. I'm like, come on, man, just move it, lady. I just don't get that. I don't just, the kids do not have to sit there and talk to. Now, the TSA agent will talk to each kid. They will screen them. They will. And I remember the TSA agent would then talk to my sons. I'm like, oh God, now they're going to go into, well, we're late because mommy had to go to the bathroom again. And she says she has to poop before she goes on a plane because she can't go potty. And I'm like, that's private. And so I was always worried about what would be divulged. Right. But, so, my mom is going to try to sneak onto the Southwest airline flight and then save a whole bunch of seats and put stuff in between so we could try to get our whole row to ourselves. So that's what we're going to do on the airplane. So mommy doesn't have to sit next to somebody else, and we could try to get will you shut up? Just go through. So, I never liked kids being interrogated by TSA. Not that TSA cares, so I do that too. But that'd be great. Get the kids through security differently. Get people in and out of security. I think now that a lot of countries are doing biometrics, it's, retinal scans, saliva tests, who knows what's going to be happening. But I think things are going to start getting more efficient. Because I got to tell you, when somebody says you have to fly somewhere, I'm like, oh. Now, the big thing that has to be worked on, the elephant in the room, is what do you do with the airplane? These airplane seats, your knees banging against the seat in front of you, not cool. They've got to change how planes are not comfortable. Your kids can't sleep. Basically, I'll always travel with the kids where then we can just kind of overlap in our seats. But when I'm sitting next to a stranger, if they're not a sexy fireman, I don't really want to lay my head on them. And I don't think they want my head on them also. So we're going to have to, you can do as much as you can with the airport, but you got to do something with the flight. Because if it's not first class or business class, you are sitting there getting neuropathy and radiculopathy and spondylolisthesis and subluxations, and it's absolutely miserable. I can barely walk when I get off a plane. So that has to be addressed. But now, what does all this mean for you? Does it mean you're going to get healthier? Well, I hope so. I love the idea that there's healthy options. But unfortunately, whenever an airport has to do something different, they crank up the prices. And I'm really glad that airports are now allowing water to be free, like some filtered water. But when you want to buy water or an apple, it's expensive. And so I'm worried that some of these changes are going to mean that now airport food is expensive. Or if you want something healthy, if you want a grab and go salad, it's going to be $12. So we'll see what happens. But I like where they're going with this. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So, when I worked at an urgent care, I remember wanting to clock out, and there was a long line of nurses and employees just standing there. And I wanted to get home to my baby because my baby was only a few months old. And I'm like, oh no, the time clock is out. I need to clock out. And they go, no, it's working. We're just waiting till after the 7 minutes. What are you talking about? They go, well, because you get paid based on 15-minute intervals. So if you clock in or clock out before the 7 minutes, if you could wait till after the 7 minutes, it goes to a whole nother 15-minute mark. And I'm like, oh, I guess how many more minutes do we have? 3 minutes. So we're standing there by the time clock. And then as soon as it was after that minute 7 or 8 or whatever, makes sense that it would be 8 minute, I don't know, I think we finished our shift at like 1 in, so 1:08. Then everybody clocked out. And then I noticed the same thing in the mornings. You want to clock in because, and get here right at that time, because if not, you're going to lose that 15 minutes. And I'm like, this is kind of cheating, but everybody was doing it. And I trust me, I put my work in. I mean, in fact, even after I clocked out, if there was anything to clean up or finish or whatever, I would do off the clock. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm fine with it. I've made my peace with it. But now that things are more electronic, we see this a lot, where people are going to clock in, and then that's what they use as their clock-in time. And if there's ever a labor dispute, the labor board will say, let me look at the time clock. When did they clock in? And if you're like, but they weren't supposed to clock in early. They were supposed to clock in on time, and they clocked in a half hour early, and they didn't work during that time. This was their shift. You might have a little bit of pull, but if the timestamp says this is when they clocked in, they're assuming they were working. Well, apparently somebody got fired for this, and it's caused a lot of stir online. Now, I believe this happened in Spain, and a 22-year-old employee got fired because, according to the headline, she came to work too early. Now, when I first heard that, I'm like, wait a second. You have somebody that wants to get the job done, that wants to make a difference. I loved getting to work early, not so much to clock in because I got more done. And then I was ready to go, like with my office. Before patients came at 8 a.m., I'd get there at 6 a.m., and boy, would I get so much done. Yeah, so for me, I like coming to work early. But from what we understand, she really wasn't working. And her employer had warned her multiple times to stop it. So since 2023, she would come in between 7:45 a.m. and 7 a.m., 40 minutes before her shift will start. And she wasn't supposed to clock in before 7:30, but she kept doing it. And was she working? No. She wasn't working. So she was clocking in and milking the clock. This is from what we're being told from the story. So her boss fires her for serious misconduct, arguing that her relentless early bird routine meant she wasn't actually contributing to the company, only ignoring instructions. So this was in Spain. It got appealed to the Social Court of Alicante, insisting the dismissal was unjustified, but judges heard, even after multiple verbal written warnings, she came in 19 extra times, clocked in early, even tried to log in through the company app before she reached the office. Okay, and then we see what you're doing here. Not cool. That's stealing. Her employer also accused her of a separate breach of trust, selling a used company car battery without permission, which the court said added to the pattern of disloyalty. In its ruling, the court backed the company, stressing that the issue wasn't her excessive punctuality, but her stubborn refusal to obey workplace rules, which is a serious breach under Article 54 of the Spanish Workers' Statute in Spain. So now there's a lot of debate on social media. Why is somebody getting fired for coming in early? But if they're not working, that's a problem. And, I've had employees, and we paid them well. And if somebody said, look, I want to get here early so I can work on the referral log, I can get stuff done, I love it. I get that. And they're working. But when, somebody is taking advantage, in a medical office, it's tricky because ethics are really, really important. And unfortunately, the same employee who we had for years wasn't working on the referral log. And that's life or death, meaning if I think somebody has a mass on the breast, I want to make sure the mammogram and ultrasound get done. I want to know that the date is then in the chart, and then we could follow up to make sure we get the results. It's no news is good news is a horrible, horrible thing to do in a medical office. You want to make sure that you got the report, because what if the report was abnormal? And it turned out this employee wasn't following up on the referrals, didn't do the log. The log was months blink. And so I'm like, really, what were you doing here? And you never want to micromanage. You don't want to feel like you're micromanaging, but if it's life or death, and somebody could be having an abnormal mammogram or an abnormal PSA or a blood in the stool, and you never got the result, it's interesting. A medical office, when you talk to a doctor and you ask if they'll ever go back to a medical office after Obamacare ruined things, 99.999% of them would say they're never going to run their own office again. And you're like, was it really that horrible? It's pretty traumatizing. It is. And the mistakes that other people make will not only reflect on you, but could kill your patient. So let's say blood work comes in and you ordered a blood work panel on a patient and everything looks good. So you sign it off as good. If you don't double check and make sure everything you ordered is on there, you could be missing something. So for me, I know it doesn't look like I do attention to detail, but with medicine, I do. I might not do attention to detail with my hair and makeup. I don't care about that. But when it comes to patients, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Everything was normal. I just want to know his prostate score. Was it under 1? Was it, the prostate wasn't run? Yes, it was. The lab log, that's why you have a lab log. You ensure that every lab you ordered got done and that the result has been seen. And I ordered a PSA. It wasn't on the lab form. So we inquired about it. By the time the lab ran it, they were like, oops, my bad. Sent it to us. It was abnormal. Now, if I never checked, and I'm not saying this because, Dr. Dahlia, you're such a hero. I'm not saying that. I want you guys to double check and make sure your medical provider is being that judicious and detail oriented, because if somebody says your labs are all normal, ask, how was my PSA? How was my thyroid? Or make a follow-up visit so you could go over piece by piece each lab. But if I never had jumped on that and noticed that the PSA was never done and told the lab, look, we ordered a PSA, can you please do it? They did it. I waited for the results. We got the results. They were abnormal. That person could have had prostate cancer unchecked until we screened them. Now, I was doing yearly PSAs at the time. Now it's, depending on what you and your doctor want to do, you can wait a few years. So that makes me nervous. And one of the reasons why I would do yearly testing of things is because in case the lab made a mistake or somebody made a mistake, we would catch it. And we never had a patient die of prostate cancer. We all have caught aggressive prostate cancers early. We caught colon cancers early, colorectal cancer early. We caught thyroid cancer early. But if your staff isn't doing their job, that's scary. And so, if somebody is screwing around with their time clock, now somebody could say, well, they need money. Well, then let's have that conversation. Is it that you need money? Is it? But 9 times out of 10, it's, they want to take advantage. Because I remember giving somebody a raise and they were doing the same thing. And clock me in and I'll get there when I get there. So I think it is important to listen to your boss and follow the rules. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Show 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Well, we're hearing farmers are pretty happy getting a $12 billion assistance package that President Donald Trump has unveiled. He says the money from that is going to be coming from the tariffs and the money coming in. And it's helping the agricultural industry while they're looking for new export markets for farmers, while they're trying to deal with, I think, a lot of the damage that COVID caused. Remember, these farmers got hit really, really hard with the lockdowns. And they took it with a lot of grace and stride. But if I was a farmer, I would have been a lot more upset. And they're a tough bunch, and I really credit them. But these farmers had supply. standards and supply goals and expectations. And they're farming for that. And they take a loss on a lot of products, hopefully make money on others. And they were preparing for a busy 2019-2020 season. And then all of a sudden, governors said, this restaurant has to be closed. This bar has to be closed. Schools are closed. The marijuana dispensaries could be open, but restaurant closed, this closed, this closed. Well, now all this food, you just can't ship it to a grocery store. A grocery store only has X amount of refrigeration, X amount of storage. And a lot of this food that was supposed to go to restaurants and deliveries that were expected didn't go where it needed to go. And of course, these stores, these restaurants didn't buy the packaging and the boxes of food that they usually needed for a busy 2020 winter season. The lockdown in some places opened up by the late spring, summer. Other places it continued at least for a year or two. And then you had these businesses go under. Well, if those businesses go under, then you have those fewer individuals buying your products. And so then the farmers, having all this extra food, didn't know what to anticipate. So then they have to decide, well, do we grow less? Do we harvest less? It costs money to harvest. What do we do? And because that wasn't something that was, there's some predictability until you have governments decide to shut and lock things down. And many farmers never recuperated from that mess. Prices went up, food skyrocketed. Then you had avian flu, you had other issues that were affecting eggs and chicken. And now beef prices are going up. And so Trump comes into office. Now, is he going to fix everything overnight? No. Luckily, egg prices going down. Other things are going down, but not to pre-COVID levels. Farmers are in trouble. I've learned a lot about farming, talking to people, and then Clarkson's farm. I didn't realize how even a billionaire or multi-millionaire could, you'll struggle financially. And I got to see a lot of the woes that many of these farmers deal with, whether it's weather related, whether it's government regulation related, whether it's supply and demand related. And so in England, they really rely on subsidies from the government. And so if farmers were forgotten in the last administration, Trump wants to ensure that they're not forgotten now. Within the $12 billion aid package, $11 billion will go to a newly designed Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. This is according to USA Today. It provides one-time payments to row crop farmers as they recover from some foreign governments and deciding to not, shall we say, work with America in amidst the trade or the tariff war and other market disruptions. Now, the remaining billion will be reserved for other crops, which the U.S. Department of Agriculture will determine based on market conditions. Now, people are saying, okay, well, this is all Trump's fault. Whereas Iowa cattle and soybean farmer Court Holub said it's Christmas early for farmers. So these payments are going to provide certainty to farmers as they market this year's harvest and plan for next year's crops. Now, Trump has reached a deal with China. China consumes a lot of our soybeans, but soybean futures fell below $11 a bushel. There's uncertainty over China is going to buy as much. And so one thing that I foresee, and I'm not a farming or economic expert, is we are in a reset with this administration on being less reliant on other countries and being less screwed over by other countries. So if somebody is tariffing us a certain percentage, Trump wants it reciprocal. Even though he said if it was truly reciprocal, then go under. So he's actually tariffing less than what we get tariffed. But it's about time somebody called that out and addresses it. But another thing that we've been saying for years, especially as it pertains to our medications, is why are we relying on China for our medicines? We need to be making our own medicines here. When we go to war with China or anything happens, where the relationship sours, we're screwed. And so one thing Trump is doing is making sure we are more independent from these other countries. If these other countries want us and want our goods, they're going to have to pay for it. But they can't overcharge us. Same thing with our medications. Why are we paying more for our medications when Spain, England, China pays less? That doesn't happen. The pharmaceutical company charges us the exact same that they pay any other developed nation or charge any other developed nation. So there's going to be some bumpy roads to that. But what I want at the end of all of this is less reliance on China, less reliance on other countries, and we could sustain more of what we do. Now, if it turns out that China's like, wait a second, we're not going to rely on America for our soybeans. Yeah, that could definitely hurt in the short term. Absolutely. But, based on, China might be waiting for Trump to leave to then move, more on Taiwan and other things. I mean, I think we've all kind of been seeing the writing on the wall. Our relationship with China is not as strong as it once was and maybe slowly deteriorating. Now, there might be a pause or calm while Trump's in power, but for those individuals who feel like they really, really need China for them to be able to make a business or be whole, now's the time to start coming up with other options. And maybe in America, we should be eating more soybeans. I mean, maybe it'll add to our Make America Healthy Again. Who knows? I gotta tell you, the natural estrogen, I'm a fan of. But farmers were really screwed over by COVID. Probably one of the biggest industries that got screwed over. And so it's about time that they get a little bit of help. They get noticed, and hopefully we have a much more independent, thriving way to industry in farming where we don't have to rely on what happens with China. If China doesn't like us starting to reciprocate in terms of tariffs. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So in the meantime, Trump, you would think people would notice the gas prices going down. They would notice, a lot of food prices going down. They would notice how the stock market is doing better. But he has to go out on the campaign trail. Something I would not advise him to do, being there's already been 2 attempts on his life at least. But he is going to go out on the campaign trail as the American affordability is top on people's minds. And it should be. It's a mess. Was this created by Trump? No, it was created by a whole slew of issues that happened even before him. And it's not just all Biden's fault. A lot of it happened during Biden. But things have been getting costlier and going up because if a company sees somebody's going to pay $1,200 for a phone or pay $700 for a flight, they're going to keep charging it. Where there's demand, there's price increases. And where there's pressure to increase wages, like now California is going to have to pay their hotel workers $30 an hour, prices are going to go up. So the affordability, which we'll talk in a little bit, is a tall task. And Trump is going out there now to address it. 1-877-DOC-DALI, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.